then what's going to happen? So yeah, so we've got to go and get the car back, which is going to cost $2,000 to fix. Check engine light came on, something broke. They needed to replace that, but they said they needed 2 or 3 days to get the part for that. And then the front brakes were dry, and so they need some, grease on the move, grease on the bits that move to apply the brakes, not bits on the brakes themselves, because obviously greasing brakes is not going to result in a good thing for stopping. So anyway, so that's all in plan. They also found an oil leak. And when they called me on Wednesday after I took it in, they said, oh yes, the windshield washers the windshield wipers aren't working. I was like, but I got up in the morning and it was really cold and the windows were misting up, so I was using the windshield wipers to wipe the condensation off the windows. So I know the windshield wipers are working, so I'm thinking, what did you do to break them? Because they were fine when I left home. So they went and checked with the mechanic, and it's sort of, oh no, the windshield wipers are fine. It's the spraying nozzles that aren't working. And it's like, oh yes, I was going to mention that to them, but I discovered that in March and haven't used the car since March. The thing, we're kind of an awkward point in life where we only need one vehicle 99% of the time. Mrs. Osa has to go and visit family occasionally, and when that happens, she needs to leave me with a working vehicle. So we're kind of at the point where, well, we might as well rent a vehicle when she goes to visit family, and we don't need a brand new vehicle to run around with locally, because we never go very far in it. A couple of shopping trips, couple of trips to church, and really not a lot else. So we're thinking it might be worthwhile going back to one car. And unfortunately, my Saab is getting to cost an awful lot of money to maintain. And I ran a quick, hey, how much is this thing worth on a website? And it basically came back and said, yeah, it's worth $100. So the car is worth more as a trade-in than it is on a straight sale. So we'll probably end up putting it back in the garage until spring, which is one of the times that we do need two cars, because we have some all-day work events at church during spring, and Mrs. Osa goes in the morning and works that, and then I drive out there in the evening for lunch, for dinner, and finish up the day. So, but again, we could rent a car for the week, which would, I honestly don't know how much a car costs to rent for a week. I haven't looked in years, but the thing is rather than paying $2,000 maintenance every year on a car that we hardly use, I could, if I pay $300 for a small vehicle to use while we do a thing, while we need an extra car, that's still less than $2,000. Plus, we can also upgrade the van, buy a newer van, and then we'll have vehicles that are less inclined to break down and more likely to have spare parts available. Because obviously that can be a problem with a 2009 Saab 9.3. Nobody makes spare parts for it. And the specialists that do, because they're only making onesie-twosies, the spare parts are incredibly expensive. So the older a vehicle gets, or if it's on a discontinued line, sourcing spare parts can get quite expensive, which is why our car costs so much to fix. Although, best car I've had, well, one of 5 best cars I've had, because I've had 5 of them. But sadly, it's time to move on. Also, I'm getting old again, and sort of bending to get into a small or mid-sized sedan can be difficult on some days. So it's just maybe all I need to do is think about getting something that's sort of mid-size or that sort of range of small SUV that I can just, it's easy to get in and out of, and just, we don't need a minivan anymore. Since Teenage Osa left, we only ever have a maximum of 4 people in the car. So I did do a little stint at car dealerships. Let me think. Plymouth Prowler. I cannot fit into a Plymouth Prowler. I'm 6 foot. Yeah, Plymouth Prowler, not a vehicle I could even consider owning and driving. And one of the guys at the dealership was like 6'5", and so he couldn't drive it either. And we'd taken it as trade-in for, if I remember rightly, a Ram 1500 truck. But it's like, yeah, we've got this Plymouth Prowler, and only a couple of the guys at the shop could actually drive it and move it round the yard and whatever. But yeah, compact sedans, something like a VW Bug original model. Don't ask. I'm not getting in one of those. Mini Cooper. With a Mini Cooper, I would have to push the seats all the way back, and so I couldn't have any rear seat passengers. So it being a full 4-seater, forget it. Now, I've ridden in the Lotus Elise. That wasn't too bad, but that's a two-seater, so not a problem. But yeah, there are an old Volvo, surprisingly, an old Volvo. Now, the thing with old Volvos were the seats were on an incline. So if you pulled the seat all the way forward, it raised the seat up. And if you pushed the seat all the way back, you had more headroom. And I was passenger, and we had more people in the back, so I had to push the seat forward. And there wasn't enough headroom for me. So sometimes that can be an issue. But I was quite surprised because, if you think about a Volvo, the old Volvo, what would now be a V70 wagon, they're quite big. They're not small cars, but they're just designed that the seats have quite a severe incline on the rails to adjust forward and backwards. So it adjusts forwards and back, and if you go forwards, it reduces your headroom, which kind of makes sense in some ways because obviously if you're shorter, lifting the seat up will give you more visibility out the front so you can see where you're going. But it can make things uncomfortable for tall people who need to move the seat forward because you've got passengers in the back. Although I think these days vehicles tend to have four-way adjustments, so you can adjust them forward, back, up and down. And that headroom thing isn't quite so bad. Also, the old sunroof, moonroof, whatever. Older vehicles, that used to take up a lot of space for the retracting mechanism. So headroom on a vehicle with a sunroof was usually an inch shorter than headroom on a vehicle without. So whenever I bought a car, I used to, at least in the UK, I used to specify it without a sunroof. I don't want a sunroof because I like the headroom. But getting in and out of the Saab isn't so much my size as my flexibility and the pain involved bending. So that can result in the car, and I like the car, but at my age it's getting difficult to get in and out of. So having something like a Ford Escape, Chevy Equinox, Honda CR-V, CRX, or something akin to those. I do like the Equinox. The Equinox is a really nice vehicle and has a well thought out cabin. I'm a little bit off. We did at one point, we owned a Saab 97X, which is the big Chevy Traverse, I think it was. And that's got a horrible cabin layout. And it's a big SUV, but it feels so cramped. It's easy to get in and out of, but there's nowhere to swing your elbows. Whereas the Equinox is just a small but very roomy inside vehicle, and the front passenger layout is brilliant. There's room for your 20 cup holders, and there's space for Mrs. Osa's handbag, and just a nice comfortable vehicle. It's also, of all the vehicles in that size class, has the best legroom at the back. Now it's the same size as something like a Ford Escape or the Honda CR whatever. But the Ford and the Honda have more luggage space in the back and less leg room for rear passengers. You put the back seats down in all of them, cargo capacity is exactly the same, as near enough. But once you put those back seats up, the Chevy it's designed for having passengers in the car, whereas the rest of that sort of range of vehicles is designed more for luggage. So if you've got small kids and lots of stuff to take on vacation, then maybe you want a Ford Escape. But if you've got older kids and you don't need the luggage space, then the Equinox would be the better option. We did have an Equinox at one point. Unfortunately, a deer decided it didn't like it and ran into the front of it and just messed it up. So we traded that in for the Honda Odyssey, which at the time, it was sort of we'd adopted at that point, so we had one always there kid and two possible extras, and the Equinox was just a little bit small for everybody. But as I said, we don't have the problem of having extra children. And the Odyssey is let me think. So in terms of the model railway, I have 6 foot, each bench is 6 foot long. And the reason it's 6 foot long is because I can't fit 8 foot in the back of the Odyssey. I can fit 7 foot in the back of the Odyssey, but not 8, which makes buying 8 foot plywood boards a bit of a problem, or insulation boards. But buying 6 foot long lengths of whatever it is, 4x1s, 2x4s, I can buy 6 foot lengths, which is kind of convenient. So everything to do with the model railway is 6 foot long or shorter, cut from 6 foot lengths. But there are times I could really use 8 feet, but I don't have an 8 foot long vehicle. And if we drop down to an Equinox, then I can't do 6 foot either. But that might not be an issue because I don't think I need anything that's 6 foot long anymore. The majority of the bench work is built now. So, and since I can't fit an 8x4 in the back of the van, what I'm tending to buy is 2x2s or 2x4 hobby boards, and that's fine because 8x4s are heavy, and trying to pick them up and move them around is not easy for me at my age. So doing a small section of 4x2 foot or 2x2 foot, that works okay. Which reminds me, I do need to go and buy a 2x2 panel, because I am now ready to start on the electrical work. And so, 2x2 panel, I can mount some stuff on it. I might cut it down to a 2x1 or a couple of 2x1s because I do need 2 panels. But I can mount wires and control circuitry modules and stuff, and that's gonna be the next, possibly the next thing I do. I've still got to lay the track in the bay platform area. And there's a switch there, or turnout there, and a turnout on the main into that section. so I can wire up the switches on the which way is that? That's south side of the station counterclockwise. And I've got all the bits I need for that now, so I might look at getting that done. And then I need another control module to do the clockwise control turnouts. And then that will be the south side all done. And then I need to work on the north side, which needs 1.5 modules, which is rather annoying, but it is what it is. And then, yeah, the freight yard will be a control module and a 2x4 all by itself with, and what I'm planning to do with that is just lay the track, put all the wires in, don't go that way, put an electrical connector on the board so I can just plug it into the, seriously, come on. There we go. Yeah, so I'll have a connector on the existing section and a connector on the freight yard, and I can just pick that up, place it in place, and then scenery it in. But I can do all the work off the layout, so while I can reach all sides, I can turn it round, I can do all the things that need to be done, and then just drop it in place, and it should work because I'll be able to test it on its own. But I don't absolutely need that right away. I need to do the bits that I am not going to be able to reach when that's in place. So while I'm kind of free formatting it, there are certain things I must do this before I can do other things because of how everything, I have to consider reachability. Or I need to get myself one of those rolling step platform things that cost a lot of money. But basically, it's a sort of a set of stairs with a platform on top that you can lie on,